This is the Georgia Farm Monitor. Since 1966, your source for state and national agribusiness news, and features for farmers and consumers about Georgia's #1 industry, agriculture. The Georgia Farm Monitor is produced by the state's largest general farm organization, the Georgia Farm Bureau. Now, here are your hosts, Ray DeLessio and Kenny Bergamy.
Well, hey there. Welcome to the Georgia Farm Monitor. As you just heard, we are your host. That is Kenny. I am Ray, and we are here for the next 30 minutes.
Yeah, but honestly, 30 minutes isn't enough to cover everything we have for you today, but we plan to get it in. Coming up, nothing like a good watermelon this time of year, but what effects, if any, did all the recent rain have on this year's crop? Dairy farmers are also facing their share of obstacles, but is this the man that can turn things around? The Monitor sits down with the new general manager of the Southeast United Dairy Industry Association, Doug Ackerman. And then later, think your life is hectic? Try being the U.S. Ag Secretary. Tour the country with Sonny Perdue during his mission to reach the heart of America's farmers. These stories and so much more starting right now on the Georgia Farm Monitor.
Fresh, locally grown. It's not just a slogan anymore. It is now a way of life for many. However, for those without regular access to groceries, what are they to do? Well, fortunately, there are programs like the DeKalb Mobile Farmers Market. Established in 2015 through a grant from the CDC, the market is a converted school bus that offers fresh fruits and vegetables to the public, courtesy of Georgia's farmers, as well as UGA Extension.
Granny's at 153. Okay. Plums, 59.
What we're basically doing is trying to address food access in areas that are limited with grocery stores. A lot of people like to call it food deserts. We just say limited access, you know, because a lot of times when you say that into certain communities we serve in, they look at it in a different manner. So we just want to make sure that we're trying to provide access of fresh fruits and vegetables. But the key ingredient to this whole program is not just providing access, but education at the same time.
Morris, how much is it?
So right now we're in year 3. I mean, you'll have your bumps and bruises your first year. Second year we start building momentum. Now we're in our 3rd year and we're seeing the traction, the impact that we want this to have for DeKalb County citizens. I really believe people are real conscious about what it is they're eating. We do have some traditional farming, but when our organic farmers come through, we'll definitely utilize them. We showcase their farms and everything, and people are just purchasing. So we use local farmers here in DeKalb, but then we're using farmers throughout the entire state. Some things we have to get from areas like California because we're not growing plums and grapes and things like that. But it's based on what people are asking that they want to purchase. We're trying to make sure we have that in the market to benefit them. You know, so far, everyone hasn't, it's okay. I get a lot of calls, hey, how can we get involved in terms of showcasing what it is they're doing, breaking deals, seeing what they want to bring to the market, because they're growing things that we don't even have out here. So I'm always looking for different things to showcase on the market. So when you look at the REACH grant coming through the CDC, channeled through the Board of Health, we have, of course, cooperative extension with UGA. That's who we're part of. Then we're also part of the county. The DeKalb County fleet helps us with this bus. Sanitation was helping us with our drivers the first year. Parks and Rec is helping us with our driver right now. So all those internal departments really have a buy-in into what we're doing here in DeKalb County, along with the Board of Health and the CDC. When you look at what you're doing by way of improving people's lives, you can't beat that. You can't beat that regardless of the blood, sweat, and tears that go in making sure this operation go in, day out. But when you look at what it's doing, impacting people's lives, and that's what it's all about. We're hoping our education really change people's viewpoint in how they see food so that they can, start dealing with some of the chronic diseases that they're battling based on how they're eating. We look at other grocery stores and what they're selling, the prices, not to compete with them because we don't want to take anything from what they're doing for the constituents who they're serving. But what we're doing is just trying to make this a little more affordable so that people would look at food differently, but actually think about purchasing and trying it. And that's what our recipe is about. You taste it over there, but you then get that recipe to know how to prepare it the way you just tasted it. So that's what it's all about.
Such a great service, and the bus makes stops all around Decatur, Stone Mountain, as well as Lithonia. For a full list of dates and times for each stop, be sure and visit the DeKalb Mobile Market's website at DeKalbMobileMarket.com. There's also a link on there for volunteer opportunities.
Meanwhile, with summer officially here and people planning all sorts of outdoor activities, businesses like Legier & Sons in Cordele are hard at work packing and shipping watermelons to stores across the country. However, this year Mother Nature has made harvesting a little more challenging. Damon Jones has the story.
Here in the watermelon capital of the world, things are starting to get busy as harvesting season is in full swing. And that includes Legier & Sons, who provide this summertime fruit to stores and markets all around North America.
We harvest watermelons and sell to the major chain stores and pick and pack and move a lot of fruit. That's what we do. They go from Canada to West Palm Beach, mostly up and down the East Coast, but we do ship some to the Midwest also.
While it might not be the first crop people think of when talking about Georgia ag, the state does account for more than 15% of the total U.S. production. It's an ideal fruit to grow in South Georgia for a couple of different reasons.
I think it's soil tight. Sandy loam and red pebbly soil are real good for watermelon production, and also it's the timing of one of the largest holidays, the 4th of July. Naturally, we can come in for that market, so that's you know, like June 1st, we can have production to start at June 1st to carry us through mid-July.
And with the 4th right around the corner, this packing facility is running at full speed.
We're real busy. This is the time to go right here. We're about a week to 10 days out from the holiday, and so this is when all the chain stores want to load up the stores for Georgia watermelon.
However, this year's crop didn't come without some challenges, as Mother Nature provided a few obstacles along the way.
It's been challenging. It really has with the tropical depression that came through and the water, and watermelons are, even though they're 90-something% water, you can get too much, and so but hopefully now it's out of here and the sun's going to shine and we can finish getting this crop off.
And that's the point of emphasis for these growers, as the longer the fruit stays in the field, the more susceptible they'll be to diseases.
Yeah, some of the diseases that are gummy stem blight and some of the other viruses that can attack the plant. Yeah, you lose the vine and then you lose the fruit. You want to stay on top of them and cut them when they're ripe and get them out as soon as possible.
But despite the difficulties, this year's crop is still in good shape.
Well, it affects the acreage. It affects the yield mostly from standing water. It'll cause yield loss and disease pressure on the plant. But you know, it has to be, for the most part, the quality and of the fruit has been real good, and the sugar's been good so far.
And it's that type of quality Legier hopes will keep this fruit a summertime staple.
Well, we take pride in what we pack, and we try to put up a real good pack and harvest stuff at the right time so that it has the right sugar in it. And we want the consumer to be happy with the product, and we like for them to ask for Legier watermelons. But we want them, the main thing is we just want them to keep coming back for more.
Reporting from Cordele, I'm Damon Jones for the Georgia Farm Monitor.
All right, Damon, thank you so much. Now, straight ahead on the show, the Monitor sits down with the new Sudia GM, Doug Ackerman, his relationship with Georgia dairy farmers, and his vision for the future of Sudia. What changes, if any, will we see? Stay tuned.
Hi, I'm Brooks Fletcher from the North Oak County High School FFA chapter, and I'm serving as a state FFA vice president. So I kind of come from an unconventional ag background as far as FFA folks go. I was not raised on a farm. I've never lived on a farm. My mom's side of the family does own an agritourism operation where I've been blessed with the opportunity to be involved in that. But otherwise, I've lived in a neighborhood my entire life on less than an acre of land. But I still understand and see the importance of agriculture in the community and in our world. It's the most important part of our day. Food, fiber, everything you do in life is related to agriculture. So it's important for folks that don't live on the farm to have that understanding and the knowledge of agriculture in general.
To learn more about the National FFA organization, log on to ffa.org.
Hey guys, I'm Blake Poole. I'm from Haralson County, Georgia, born and raised from a cattle farm. And guys, my position at Georgia Cattlemen Association is Director of Association Services. My responsibilities at the Georgia Cattlemen Association are the membership, going to sale barns, promoting what GCA does, and growing the membership. And so I think Georgia Cattlemen's Association, that's the grassroots of the whole organization. That's what makes us grow. And you have to be that cheerleader, and you have to promote what you're pulling for. And I think Georgia Cattlemen Association, that's the best. I think that's the best organization in the state of Georgia. Growing up around cattle, it taught me a lot of values, a lot of hard work, and what it means to be involved in the family farm. And I think farming is very important because we're 3 generations removed from family farms. And I think the world population is growing more and more every day. And so the more young people are involved, the better we'll be. I love the hard work about being out on the farm. I love the hard work, the values, and I think the best thing for me is working with my dad and my uncle. No matter the food you eat, clothes you wear, it starts right here at the local level. And I think farmers, that's your most important person in America.
Well, back in January, the Southeast United Dairy Industry Association, also known as SUDIA, officially underwent a changing of the guard of sorts when Doug Ackerman took over as general manager following the retirement of Cheryl Hain. With an extensive background in both the military and agriculture, Ackerman's outlook is one of discipline and a passion for the farmers and producers he represents.
Working in agriculture, working for the people that work the ground, work the earth for a living, and are bringing healthy, nutritious food to the table of American people is something to be proud of. It's something that my 11-year-old daughter, I bring her to different meetings when I have her in the summer and that kind of thing, and she really, you can see the level of pride that she has in it. She will point to posters at school. We have our Fuel Up to Play 60 posters in the schools, and point to it and says, my daddy does that. And you know, it's a great feeling. The values, the way that farmers live, it's just a great feeling to be able to help represent them and to work hard for people that are putting food on the table. There's just nothing better. Technology-wise, you know, when I'm talking to people about what cows get fed, and it's really, they're like an athlete. The nutrition, the way that we're checking the quality of the milk, absolutely one of the safest products out there. I don't think there's anything out there that gets tested as much as milk does. And then when you're looking at the different components and you talk to farmers about their feed and how they're feeding their cows, and everybody's got their own unique formula, and just the absolute amount of attention to detail that they bring to that situation is really impressive, and something that we always try to highlight because it really goes into that animal care, and it's something that the average customer really doesn't understand what goes into it. Honestly, right off the bat, I think it's just a fresh perspective. I don't have, as I describe it, I work for the dairy farmers. I absolutely, in my mind, I'm responsible for their investment. And it's, obviously there's different terminology for the 15 cent a hundredweight that goes in to fund our organization, but in my mind, that's the livelihoods of the people that we're dealing with. And it's a responsibility I take very seriously. And coming in with no predisposition and just kind of trying to look at everything and figure out, okay, what's working, what's not working, what do we need to do more of? You know, my job as I see it is to put another generation on that farm. I mean, we redid our vision statement, redid our mission statement as an organization, but it's very, very clear to me. It's just, I need to put that next generation on the farm. we're going through a rebranding. So when you look at that logo, and some of the first questions I had that we went through on the interview process was, are we an industry-facing brand or are we a consumer-facing brand? And we're both. Okay, if you're an industry and association, are we an effective consumer-facing brand? Where do we need to go from here? So there's a lot of really fundamental questions of who you are and what you do that we get to relook at. You know, 1 glass of milk a day per student in all of our schools in the 9 states is 5 million pounds of milk a day. So when you have that level of nutrition that you're responsible for providing for the future of tomorrow, it's a big deal, and we're not about to walk away from that.
Yeah, glad to have Doug here in Georgia, and we certainly wish him the best of luck as he moves forward with Sudia. Well, when we come back, you think being the U.S. Secretary of Ag is easy? Absolutely not. Around the country with Sonny Perdue, that is next when the Farm Monitor continues.
Y'all need to know I was a farmer first, and we're going to get comfortable in working clothes, okay? My vision for the Department of Agriculture in the United States of America is to be the best run, the best managed, the best regarded agency in this country with the best reputation. Can we do that? I believe we can.
We want to be good stewards. We want to be good stewards of the taxpayers' resources, but we want to be good stewards of the land, good stewards of our organization, good stewards of one another.
What I do is going to reflect on you, and as an industry, what you're going to do is reflect on me. So let's be a family of agriculture that shares one another's reputation and does right and feeds everyone. Would you like to do that?
Tell me again what you'd like with a pizza.
Thicker crust and more sauce.
Thicker crust and more sauce. Okay. I'm glad I came. Are you? Yeah. Rural prosperity. How do we tear down the barriers that have been created in American agriculture so that we can prosper and thrive?
Look at the rations today that we feed. This is about 60% co-products.
Thank you. I'll be happy to be an adoptive Iowa son here. Great people, diversity of agriculture all across the country. It's different a little bit in Georgia than it is here, but really the people are the same, and they're hardworking.
Sonny, thank you for coming to Arkansas, and thank you for your love of agriculture.
The president wanted me to come and to get a first-hand view. You're a much better advocate when you've seen it than hearing about it.
I've always been a grow it and sell it kind of guy. And if the hardworking people in American agriculture can continue to grow it, USDA and its new Undersecretary for Trade and Foreign Agricultural Affairs will be here to sell it in the marketplace around the world. And we'll take care of rural America at the same time.
Finally today, what is next on that landscaping to-do list of yours? Maybe some shrubs, a couple of flower beds here and there, or maybe some trees?
Well, if it's the latter of the three, the Monitor's Paul Pugliese has some information on one tree you may want to scratch off your list permanently.
Hi, I'm Paul Pugliese with the University of Georgia Cooperative Extension. Today I want to talk to you about a very popular landscape tree known as the Bradford pear. This is a particular tree that we see planted all over the state for the flowers. It's actually a very popular landscape tree and produces beautiful white flowers in March and early spring every year. So this is one that has become very popular over the last 50, 60 years. The Bradford pear was actually introduced by USDA in the 1960s as a variety from China and Korea to actually try to breed in disease resistance into some of our cultivated or edible pear varieties. Unfortunately, that never really produced a whole lot, but they did find some really interesting flowering types of Bradford pears to make into an ornamental for landscape uses. So this is one that is very, very popular and one that we see planted all over the state of Georgia. Interestingly enough, I'm not actually a very big fan of Bradford pears. For one thing, the flowers actually kind of smell bad. If you've ever smelled the flowers, they almost smell like dead fish in the springtime. Another reason they're not a very popular plant as far as I'm concerned is that they tend to be very short-lived. They have very weak branch structures. If you notice, the branches on Bradford pears kind of go up vertically. They're very, very tall and gangly, and they tend to split out and break when they get older. So around 15, 20 years old tends to be the limit as far as the age of these trees. Whenever a storm blows through town, you'll see these start to self-destruct and drop branches and become a problem in the landscape. So again, this tends to be a short-lived tree, not a big fan. The third reason that I'm not a big fan of Bradford pears is they actually have a tendency to revert back to a wild type that's invasive. So just like other invasive species like kudzu and Chinese privet and wisteria, this actually has an invasive cousin called wild calorie pear. The wild calorie pears actually produce these types of branches that look very similar, smaller leaves, but if you pull back the leaves, you'll notice that they actually have thorns that start to produce out, and these thorns can get 2 or 3 inches long. These thorns are actually sharp enough that they could actually puncture the tire of a tractor or a car if you're not careful. So as you can imagine, these are not very popular trees when they start growing wild in people's yards and over farms and fence rows and along roadsides. So how do they become invasive? Well, the Bradford pear, as you can see, does not have those thorns, but it actually does produce some fruit, and these particular fruit are very, very tiny. The fruit on this tree actually can hybridize with other wild pears, and so sometimes it'll produce viable seeds, and the fruit are actually eaten by birds and carried and planted everywhere that those seeds drop. And so that's how these wild calorie types begin to start. So we're going to talk a few minutes about how to control these. One of the other ways that Bradford pears can go wild is through stump sprouts. If you take a look at this tree, it's actually a type that's grafted. Some of the old Bradford pear varieties were grafted onto a wild type of rootstock with the calorie pear species. So whenever they produce root suckers, whenever the tree falls over, dies, or if it gets hit with a weed eater one too many times, it'll produce these sucker sprouts. And these suckers will also produce thorns, and sometimes they'll bear fruit that'll spread. And so one of the things you want to do is avoid hitting that tree or wounding that tree to create these types of suckers and be a problem. One of the ways to get rid of Bradford pears that become invasive is to make sure you treat the stumps. Anytime a tree dies or you have to cut it down for some reason, you want to make sure you treat those stumps so that they don't come back from the root sprouts. This can also be used for any of the wild types of calorie pears that tend to regrow from those stumps when you cut them down. So the way to do that is to treat it with a stump treatment of herbicide. And there are actually a couple of different herbicides you can use. The two most popular ones are glyphosate and triclopyr. And make sure you pick up a highly concentrated type that has maybe a 40% concentrate of glyphosate to use this type of a stump treatment. Whenever you're doing a stump treatment, it's really important to note that you don't actually dilute this out. This is one of the few exceptions that you use at full strength. And so when you measure this out, you actually want to use a disposable paintbrush. Make sure you wear gloves to protect your hands from any chemicals that you might be exposed to. I prefer a disposable brush so that when I'm done with it, I throw it away and it doesn't get used for anything else. When you're doing a stump treatment, you can dip your brush into that herbicide and you paint it right onto the stump, full strength, and you want to go all the way around the edges. What's interesting is you don't have to treat the whole stump. You only have to treat the outer inch or two around the perimeter of the stump, and that'll actually do very well as far as controlling the tree. So you can save a little bit of herbicide by not treating the entire stump. And if you do this properly, this will prevent those root sprouts from coming back. If you do have a very aggressive root system, sometimes you need to come back and spot spray those sprouts that come up later. One very important thing to remember is to treat the stump while it's still green. As soon as you cut it down, the quicker you can treat that stump, the better. For more information, contact your local county extension office or go to our website at ugaextension.org, and be sure to follow us for more gardening tips on the Georgia Farm Monitor.
Great job, Paul. Thank you so much. Unfortunately, we're out of time.
Yeah, take care, everybody. We'll see you next week right here on the Georgia Farm Monitor.
Have a great week.